All right. Hello all. It's your friend Anni here and warmly welcome to this live. So I just decided that I'm gonna do this random live support live for all of you caffeine quitters out there because you have been asking that am I gonna do English live and when I gonna do my next English live and I have been doing now a lot of lives in Finnish. So I decided that now I just do random live because you know it's you are all in my heart. Even I don't know if I have now anything like new to add. Like I pretty much have been saying everything about this topic that I have or possibly could say, but just like now I think that you can ask if you have any questions what comes to post-acute withdrawal symptoms or caffeine withdrawals, and I'm just hanging here with you, and then I'm gonna keep a little science corner where I read you a little piece of text from the book Caffeine Blues. So just to keep you motivated to stay quit, and all of you who are maybe considering to quit caffeine, I just recommend you to do that. Maybe try how it makes you feel when you stop, and if you have been using a lot, of course, I recommend you to taper slowly because like you know that cold turkey for some people it can be like huge shock. But anyway, I put the chat on so you can just join if you have anything. And I think before, because it always takes a little bit time before people will show up and know that I'm here. And I try to put in the future announcements when I'm gonna do live so you know when I'm gonna show up. But anyway, we're gonna take a little bit from the Caffeine book first. I'm gonna read a little bit about what caffeine actually does to our brain. So if just in case if there is some new subscribers or new followers and you don't know anything that caffeine does to us, then I warmly recommend you to read Caffeine Blues book yourself, of course. But also many of you, I know when you're suffering post-acute withdrawal symptoms, you can just sometimes feel, I felt so bad so many times that I didn't even want to read. I couldn't even read. I was just always so, disconnected and blah, and this symptom and that symptom, and the roller coaster ride. So sometimes it's just good that somebody is here to reassurance you and, to keep you motivated. Hello, Yuppie Star. Nice to see you too, and welcome. So wait a second, I will find the chapter. Okay, so here it is, the part that I was about to read you. How caffeine boggles the brain. Okay, so how does caffeine decrease mental acuity and cause all these problems? There are a number of possible explanations. The first, of course, being stress. Nature did not design the stress response to enable us to engage in the abstract or global reasoning, such as may be required for complex tasks or final exams. The stress response causing a shift of mental function to a very primitive survival-oriented part of the brain known as the limbic system. Once again, this is great if you are engaged in a fight or flight situation, but not so great if you are trying to write an essay on the fall of the Roman Empire. What's more, adenosine receptors antagonists, such as caffeine, have a depressive effect on the brain biochemicals such as acetylcholine, since acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter directly involved in memory and learning. This could account for some of the observed negative effects. In support of this theory, researchers generally have found that simple tasks such as assembly line work are enhanced by caffeine consumption, while complex reasoning skills are diminished. Subjects asked to perform auditory reconnection tasks, for example, where they had to process verbal information, did worse after ingesting caffeine. Other eye-opening research has found that caffeine causes remarkable decrease in cerebral, I don't know how to pronounce it, cerebral blood flow. This is a good English teaching for me. And this is one thing that is a huge stuff. You don't want to do that. You don't have to be a neurochemist to see that such an effect would not be good for the memory. Mood and learning. Caffeine produces this effect known as cerebral vasoconstriction by interfering with the normal relaxation of the blood vessels in the brain. So I hope by this far we have already learned in my channel that caffeine narrows those blood vessels in the brain. So it's really bad thing. And if you use that really long time and you become dependent and you will start to gain that allostatic overload when your system cannot be in homeostasis, because it's always want to be in homeostasis. But if it cannot be in homeostasis, it have to go in those allostatic stages, which means that then if you are long period of time in that high allostatic stages, you will start to gain the thing called allostatic overload, which means that your systems have to adapt in that high stress state. And many caffeine users, we end up in that state, which is also called caffeineism, where kind of our system has to adapt and change some of the function of our, like, for example, respiratory systems, digestion system, cardiovascular system, all these systems that are working in the body balanced when everything is like normal. But when you are under this heavy drug, long period of time, it can affect you in many ways. And that can be also the one reason that many of us will end up having this so-called falling off the mountain with this drug, when we end up like having this very severe post-acute withdrawal symptoms, anxiety symptoms, when our system is temporarily out of the whack. And this is something that I want you now to remember, temporarily out of the whack. This is the main message. But because it's a long road for many, like it's a long road, that's why I always want to point out it's an ups and downs road. You will have very good moments in your journey, but you will have a lot of struggle. For me, it was basically always like a struggle and then just good moments there, like here and there. Like it wasn't like, if I have in some videos may have give you a picture in my journey that I did have like months of feeling good. It never wasn't like that in my journey. It was always the roller coaster, like I said, ups and downs, and then I had those moments when anxiety lifts and it was a little bit better. So that was my journey. But there is all kind of experiences that I have heard. Some people, they just have really, really hard, like they call it like stable bullshit, until anxiety starts to ease. For some people, some women, like for example me and some others, we have a little bit more windows waves what comes to our period cycle. So it's all normal when your brain is rewiring. Even the anxiety symptoms, of course, can be individual. Some people, they just have a lot of intrusive thoughts, just a lot of negative thinking, and not so much maybe these physical symptoms. But for me, I had pretty much all the symptoms, and now almost those symptoms are gone. And next month I will be, by the way, sorry if I'm speaking this much, but I'm just so happy, I will be 4.5 years without any caffeine, and I just feel good, motivated. I don't have anything to complain. Yeah, I have still minor kinks and like some blahness around my cycle, and you know, some here and there, but my memory is starting to finally getting better, like my short-term memory also, and I'm just happy about that. And also I want to say that as long as you have these past symptoms, it's always feel that you are not like yourself, because it's that disconnection. And I want to go a little bit about that too soon, but let's take a little bit more this science before I get too excited about speaking this. So, okay. We have learned now caffeine is very bad. Your learning, your memory, everything. We don't want to do that because it's like vasoconstrict and it stops the blood flow. It interferes the blood flow to your brain. So caffeine, even in small doses, is a potent cerebral vasoconstrictor. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Cerebral vasoconstrictor. Remember that, guys. Even if you are now using a lot of caffeine, I just want you maybe consider, if you cannot quit completely, please taper or try to even drink less if you are a heavy caffeine user, because I'm sure that you can start to see effect pretty soon. But this also one thing that I have to say, a lot of things that I have to say, but this is one, because many people, they say that, oh, I have been using caffeine this and this for like many years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever. Then they are like 1 week free and they say that I don't have withdrawals yet. For my journey, at least, the withdrawals didn't really even kick in right away. Like, if you have been a heavy caffeine user, I just want you to understand one thing. If you have been poisoning your body throughout the years, it can take a time before you heal, and even before the detox part starts, because there is a science and study that caffeine toxins restore the byproducts of the caffeine. They restore in our tissues, in our body. So if you have been using heavy amounts of caffeine long time, you can have those like byproducts of caffeine in your tissues, like kind of oxidated, like they are kind of like, what is the word, like not liquid form, like it's when you start to detox from this drug, it is a process. It just takes time. So if you don't see like amazing result after, if you have been using like 30 years, 40 years, or whatever, even 20 years, and you have been a week free and you don't feel amazing, you just have to understand and give it more time. Even Stephen Chernisk says in this book that at least 2 months, even he says it. I would say my recommendation is at least 6 to 12 months to see real benefits. But of course, for many of us who have PAWS, it's not so simple, because then it can be like, for me, for example, in my first year, I was still really bad place if I compare where I'm now. And well, like completely different, like 1 year where I am now. I cannot even, it's like, it's a distant memory. I don't want to even go there, because it was just so hard. And it wasn't like, my 2 years wasn't easy either. Between 3 and 4 years, I have a lot of fatigue and like blahness and like all kind of stuff. Then I had my tsunami wave in 35 months. So it was just a struggle all journey, but it was always different. So I don't know any other ways to put it, like symptoms change, but the best thing is you just live it through, and then when it's gone, you don't have to think about it. Simple, but when you live it in that moment, that state period of time of these symptoms, not so simple. I understand that. That's why I'm here. What does Yupisar say? My severe withdrawal symptoms started 2 months after quitting caffeine. The detoxing took time to start. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Yupisar. For me, it was the same. It was like, it took, first it took some weeks, but then I think like my hardest months was like, and I said that what were my hardest months, even some videos that I have made earlier, I think I said, if I remember right, it was like between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those were like really, really hard. Like 4th, 5th month, it was hell. I don't know any other like ways to explain it, but it was just like something that I thought that I actually thought that I won't make it. But I did make it, you will make it too. No matter how bad you're suicidal, how bad you are now, just like suicidal, hopeless, feeling like you have a brain tumor, brain injury, you cannot function, dizzy, disconnected, it won't last. It won't last, and you don't you don't be like that. I promise you, when you quit and stay out from all the mind-altering drugs, which I of course recommend, but you do your best, whatever you are doing, but stay away from caffeine, all forms, chocolate included. Okay, so we're gonna go a little bit this. Is the effect significant? One study illustrated that dose of 2050 milligrams, approximately 15 ounces of caffeine, produced approximately 30% decrease in whole brain cerebral blood flow. But it can actually be more, this percent. This is not only unfortunate, it is dangerous, because at the same time caffeine increases blood pressure in the brain, leading to an increased risk for a stroke. Researchers have also found that caffeine reduced the oxygen level of the brain tissues. With all of the attention on the brain health today, concerning depression, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, as well as stroke, don't you think it's a little odd that this data has not even made in the evening news? And one thing, I think it's a little bit funny still that, you know, the mainstream media and all the women magazines and all, they are just, you know, what is that word, like promoting caffeine and how it's good for your memory, and more than 5 cups a day will stop you getting Alzheimer's. But then we see, and here Finland too, like we are the most highly caffeine consumed country in the world, and we have a lot of Alzheimer here and all kind of memory issues. And I don't say that caffeine is the only thing. Another, I think, a big thing is those vaccines, a huge thing that is causing a lot of health issues and all kind of, like, you know, lot of damage. We know that, but caffeine is one big thing and so underestimated. And these PAWS, like, why people don't speak about this? One thing is why, because people, many, they end up quitting caffeine maybe accidentally, then they because withdrawal doesn't necessarily, or PAWS doesn't kick in right away, and then this is a like common story that I sometimes hear, that somebody messaged me and say that, Anni, I have been like now 4 months without caffeine, and I think I'm having some kind of crisis in my life, and I have this severe anxiety and symptoms, and could this be caffeine? And I'm always, yeah, it can be the post-acute withdrawals, it's very common. Then those people can, if they don't know about this information, or they don't have any like sense that it can be from caffeine, they can go to the doctors. Well, doctors don't find anything usually, because people will go with these doctors all the time. They take all the tests in the world, and doctors doesn't find anything. And then they just say you have anxiety disorder, and they will try to put you on pills, which I don't recommend, of course. And you have to remember, in my channel, I am not a doctor, I'm not any scientist, I'm just a normal common human that did experience this, and that's why I just wanted to start to help others. And I did know this in my journey, that there is actually a lot of others going through the same symptoms after quitting caffeine. Even not everyone will have PAWS, like, you know. But I just didn't want to take any medication, because, and I don't say that everybody should do like that, because I know that for some people maybe it's not possible to go through this without, or I don't know, but for me at least, I just, because I knew that there was, when I find Cato's videos, you all know Cato, I just knew that there are people who have gone through this same symptoms, and like they did survive. I didn't know how long the journey would be. I didn't want to believe it in my own case. I just thought that for me it's not so long. Unfortunately, I was wrong. But anyway, so we do heal with just like with time, and when we just like give it time, and I wish that you could somehow relax as much as you could in this journey. If something, I would wish that, even I know it's hard, but because these symptoms, they are not gonna kill you, even you feel like it sucks to be in that state where you don't have motivation and you are not living your life like other people seems to be living. Even many people are not living full life, like healthy life, when they are in drugs and in addiction. But just know that it's a period of your time, probably the hardest thing that people can go through. I think in the benzo withdrawal and even the caffeine withdrawal, at least for me, this have been the hardest experience that I have ever gone through. I don't know, I don't see anything that could be harder. If I would have a cancer or like nothing, I don't think that I would suffer like this ever. But the positive thing is when you go through this, you're just gonna be so happy. You don't, the small things in your life doesn't bother you in the same way. It's just, you have to experience it. You have to go through it to experience it. And like I said, I'm a 90%, so I'm just excited how much better it even gets from here. But now we're gonna continue because I'm just talking too much. Okay, but just think about it, like, think about it this way. I know that you have a hard time now, but think about it this way. Okay, you were a high caffeine consumer, I assume, if you are here, or maybe some people even haven't been high consumers, because I know that some people end up this journey even they haven't been high consumers, but many of us who have this long-term PAWS, we have been using at least some amount of time and pretty high doses caffeine. Then there are also some people that are younger who also have PAWS, who haven't been using so long time. So it's individual. But anyway, you are in this journey. Now it sucks. But think about what would have happened to you if you would be continuing to your caffeine use. You may never have been stopped, and maybe you never have been like questioning that. Then you get older, you start to have all these, probably these memory issues, maybe Alzheimer's or things, and you just drink and drink, your adrenal glands are burned out, you start to have all the skin issues, you start to have difficulties to concentration, maybe you have depression and anxiety that you just think that it's your personality, you think that it's normal to you to just have, you think that, oh, I'm just like this, I'm just anxious and depressed. But maybe if you try to quit and stay quit longer, you could maybe see that you weren't that anxious person, like that it was something that you did to yourself. It's not something that God did punished you, that you're gonna be in this way because you are a bad person. No, at least what I think, it's not like God is good and God takes care of us, but it's sometimes we humans, we start to do something that is bad to us. For example, taking poisons. It's just my opinion. But okay, I don't go in the guarana hoax. There is a lot of this, but let's go this. Can caffeine damage your brain? And by the way, you are warmly welcome to ask and talk whatever you want in this live. So neurological damage from caffeine ingestion is far from proven, but consider the evidence. We know that elderly individuals with symptoms of memory loss and disorientation have degeneration of neurons. Degeneration of neurons in an area of the brain known as the hippocampus. And I'm really interested now about the hippocampus. You know that when I'm interested about something, I'm just learning. Hippocampus. So in the animal studies, raising stress hormone levels produce neuron damage in the precise location. What's more, human studies support the concept of stress-induced hippocampal degeneration using magnetic resonance imaging MRI. Researchers have found reduced hippocampal activity in people under high stress conditions such as depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. So stress itself and long-term stress can affect your hippocampus, and also it can affect in that neurogenesis, where what your brain is able to do, like to make new neurons, make new connections. That's how we heal. That is amazing. But if you are under the high stress load, in that allostatic overload state, it can affect different parts of your brain and even shrinken them and make it that affects your memory and learning skills. And like we also know, when we are in that high fight or flight state, we cannot use our prefrontal cortex, which is like the part of the brain that is like involved in learning and like making decisions and just logical thinking. And that is, of course, the part of the brain that in our society we should use, because in that fight or flight state, we are just there in the stress mood, and that's supposed to be just short-term state, that when we really need to protect ourselves, that because that's always what our system does when our nervous system is like in fight or flight state. Is about the protection. It's about like that we will survive, we will get alive. That's how we have been involved as a human. But many people are in that state all day long. Also in this withdrawal post-acute withdrawal journey, I was like, because my nervous system was misfiring, giving these all the wrong signals, and the message didn't go through. Like I couldn't just calm down. It took me a really long time before my anxiety started to calm down. So it's very like not nice state to be in long term, because those symptoms are not nice, and it's not supposed to be like that. And it starts to really it starts to eat you, like that credit card thing that I always speak about, that when you use the credit card, you have a new shiny credit card. In this case, it could be the caffeine. And first it can be so fun because it feels that it gives you have so much more energy, which is not energy, it's stress. And you can just go all over the place. And that can go up till years before you really starts to, think about that it's not energy. It actually takes energy away from you. And it actually starts to like take you closer to burnout, which, thank God, not everybody will end up this burnout, falling off the mountain with this drug that happened to me. And that's why I'm preaching here, that I will hope that people will not end up there, and many young people would stop drinking energy drinks, and they would just have this information about caffeine, and they would just, while they are younger and still not ending up these stages or allostatic overloads, which are like I said, we have the homeostasis where our body is always trying to go, where everything works, and then we have the allostasis where our body kind of have to adapt in those stressful situations, and it knows how to do that. But it shouldn't be the permanent state. So I just hope that many people would start to think about this caffeine stuff really, and making the better choices. Hi Chris, nice to see you. So, but about the hippocampus, and I think, by the way, one thing that happened, the last thing for me to starting to recover now, the last thing also happened, the short-term memory, which is pretty interesting. And that's, of course, is like something that when I read, if I teach somebody, I need that. I need to have my short-term memory, that I have to remember what I'm like trying to teach you, and that was for me kind of scary, like not having that, or like when you are anxious, you feel like you are so disconnected from everything. And I will go about the nervous system and disconnection in a minute, but let's see this thing. So like I said, in animal studies, raising stress hormone levels produce neuron damage in that precise location. What's more, human studies support the concept of stress-induced hippocampal degeneration. Yeah, we did go that already. But Just remember that. I did read that already. But David Morgan of the University of South Florida's Institute of Aging explains, we think that exposure to the stress hormones, particularly high levels over a long period of time, may be responsible for the minor learning deficits we have as we get older. He goes on to assert that stress hormones may be responsible for chronic degenerative disease that cause most deaths in older people. Most deaths. The message is clear. Keeping levels of stress hormones as low as possible may determine, I'm sorry that I don't know how to read English and all these words right, to a great extent of the quality of life in your later years. So you don't wanna keep adding that stress long term. You don't want to do that. Caffeine and mental illness. And before I go any further in this point, I want to show you one video about allostatic overload that I find that is really good. And we don't have to watch all this video now, but I just try to find it. Wait a second. Why is always when I try to find something, it's hard to find. Well, it was Dr. Chen, allostatic overload, allostatic load. Sorry about guys that sometimes these videos when why is this so hard? I have to find it in my Discord. Wait a second. It's there. Okay, there it is. Yes. Now, this is a good video. Something for you to watch. I will find it there. Something you to just watch and maybe think about it.
Hey everybody. So this one is going to probably be a little heady. And so if you're not up for it, go ahead and skip it. It's not going to talk a lot about symptoms. It's not going to talk a lot about what to do. It's actually going to talk about a paper that I read recently that a friend of mine sent me. It was an article called The Energetic Cost of Allostasis and Allostatic.
And please ask if you have any thoughts or anything that come to your mind when it comes to PAWS or symptoms or anything. Like, I would of course happy to hear if you have anything, like, and I try to answer best as I can.
Load. Very big words, okay? And that's why I'm saying this might get a little heady. But if you're interested in potentially a theory as to what's going on with us, okay? I think there's something embedded in this article and in this theory of allostasis and allostatic load that can help us understand why we can experience what we're experiencing and the wide range of it, from distressing symptoms that are uncomfortable to debilitating symptoms that basically alter the course of our lives and leave us non-functional for long periods of time. So if you want to stay with me, I'm gonna kind of go through this a little bit, and I'm not going to go through the entire article by any means. I'll see if there's a way that I can attach it. I don't know where if I can, but I will try to do that. But this was an article, and I'm trying to figure out when it came out. I don't really see a date on here. I think it's a relatively recent article, actually. that came out in the Journal of Psychoneuroendocrinology. I didn't even know there was a journal for psychoneuroendocrinology, but I'll tell you what, if there were ever a group of people that need psychoneuroendocrinologists, we are those people, right? So the concept of allostasis, if you've never heard of that before, it's basically a big fancy word for what we as living organisms have evolved into in terms of having an ability to anticipate both internal and external. So both internal inside of ourselves, as well as environmental disturbances, and how we mobilize to adapt to those to minimize problems. Okay, so we anticipate, maybe a virus, how our body kind of, mobilizes with the white blood cells or the temperature, doing whatever it has to do to kind of minimize that. Or stress is a big one in terms of that, external stressors. But it's basically, again, the way that we have learned to adapt, to anticipate these problems so that we minimize how far we're going to deviate, right? This is why, we experience stress in our lives and we don't go jump off cliffs, most of us, okay? Because we've figured out ways to be like, oh, there's a little bit of a deviation there. Today's a little bit of a harder day. We can think about it like today's going to be a little bit of a harder day. Time to make sure I have my extra cup of coffee or my orange juice. Or
I don't know. No extra cup of coffee. I don't know why she said. But anyway, I want you to just understand this is concept of the stress and how it's not good for us, like to have the long-term stress, and which it can lead us. And look, this like the eye of the caffeine quitter, like concept, and how this can like make you to have the better understanding about how caffeine really puts us in these high stress stages, and that's why I want to show you this, like what it comes to like understanding what our body is going through.
My good breakfast.
I hope I did explain it well.
That I'm really not going to fight with my spouse this weekend because I've got that big presentation on Monday, right? So we're constantly in that. I've used that term mentalomics before, which is again the economy of our mind, but this is a larger term about the economy of our body and minds, and how we manage stress and how we manage internal stressors, illness, stress, tension, difficulties, whatever, internally and externally. And that's called allostasis. We all do this, okay? And probably many of us did it quite well before we kind of, landed in this hellhole that we're in. But if what led you to the benzodiazepine to begin with was the fact that things were building up, things had become too much, that's when you start to move into what they call allostatics.
And of course, if you are benzo quitter, this woman has amazing videos about everything that comes to the mind and like protracted benzo withdrawal. So I will link this woman's channel below this video. And of course, caffeine quitters these videos can be useful for you also, because we know we don't have so much this information for caffeine quitters and PAWS
states, and then it moves into what they call allostatic loads and allostatic overloads. Okay, so that's where I became really interested in this, is because it began to talk about the fact that when you stay in a state of stress, in a prolonged state of stress, which is in essence what happens to us when our limbic system won't stop firing, right? It's shooting off that adrenaline, which then of course begins to shoot off the cortisol. Because if you go back to my videos, remember the adrenaline is kind of like the first responders, right? But you keep the adrenaline going long enough, and that signals for for basically the second responders to show up that feed the first responders, right? And so, again, if we're going to think about benzos, adrenaline is like the Xanax racing in, doing its job hard and fast, and Valium and cortisol is like the Valium, a little bit slower to the game, but packs a punch and sticks around longer. What we know for us is we have a lot of both going on. We have these adrenaline surges, the adrenaline flushes, and we stay in this prolonged state that brings in this cortisol, and it doesn't go down. Okay, this is why we stay in these prolonged states. And in these prolonged states, this is where you start to develop what is called allostatic load. So, allostatic load is basically the biological wear and tear that this added energy, staying in this added energetic state that we get in. There's a biological wear and tear on our neurology, on our endocrine system, on our metabolic system, on our cardiovascular system, our immune system, and other states that when we are in chronic stress, we can move into these kind of stress-related diseases or illnesses or injuries that we have. Now remember, this paper was not written about benzo withdrawal. It was not written about us at all, but it makes perfect sense for why we might be in an allostatic load that I just described, right? But then you can move into an allostatic overload. And this is where there's been long-term energy-dependent functional or structural dysregulation and breakdown that arises as a consequence of a chronic allostatic load. This leads to all sorts of disease progression and problems, again, on the molecular, cellular, physiological, mental level, on the endocrine, neurology, metabolic, cardiovascular, immune, and all of our other systems. Okay, so again, they're not talking about us necessarily, but they are. Because what happens for us is it might have been an allostatic state that led us to take the benzo to begin with. Stress at home, inability to sleep, whatever it is, okay? There's some people, me included, that went on the benzo not necessarily for an allostatic state. I didn't necessarily go on for anxiety or something like that. However, I was having all sorts of symptoms as a result of a bad antibiotic reaction that looked like extreme anxiety and created all kinds of problems. So it kind of doesn't matter. I was put on, again, because I'd moved into a state that was pulling more energy than I had to give it. Okay, and the longer we stay in these states, we move into allostatic load, and the longer we stay in the allostatic load, the more we can move into an allostatic overload, in which case everything I just said, the neurology, the endocrine, the metabolic, the cardiovascular, the immune,
and all these symptoms are affected by caffeine, like we have learned, and you probably already know. If you have quit that, you can have all these like weird symptoms in your body also, like what comes to like respiratory symptoms, like and of course you can put all these symptoms pretty much under the anxiety umbrella. But anyway, like we heal, like we don't, like I said in the last live, like sometimes we feel a little bit better in the some ways, and then again, like another day we feel a little bit bad in another way. Like that's how the body just like the rewires and brain rewires, like all these systems that have been adapted. And this is just how I see that. I can be wrong. You can say that if you have a different kind of opinions or views why this happens to some of us, and like why it is so long journey, but this is how I have been experiencing in my own journey, and seeing that it's just like the body does so, the rewiring, so as long it's all healed, as long as we are healed in our every systems in our body are balanced, and the rewiring is done. And that's why we do tend to have the symptoms until it's done. Even if you have this spot of anxiety left and you would be 90% of healed, you still will recognize the spots when you have anxiety. But then when your anxiety is completely gone and your brain have rewired, then it's gone. Period. End. And that's where are you going? You are going there. Withdrawals are not long lasting diagnosis that you would have to have all of your life. It's not.
Get affected on the molecular, cellular, physiological, and mental level. Okay. This is kind of fascinating to me because this is exactly what we're trying to get our doctors to understand has happened, right? We're still operating on that very superficial level with them of, hey, I took this drug and I feel like shit on it, or I can't get off of it, or I need so much more to get the desired result. Okay. But for those of us that are probably listening to these videos and audios, we have entered into an allostatic overload of some sort, where we have been in a chronic dysregulated state. Okay, we've been in a chronic allostatic load that has led to an acceleration of all sorts of problems on all of those levels. Now, what's interesting is, why is it that they can recognize this as a real thing? And when they're talking about it in this article, they're just talking about life stressors that can cause this, that people that maybe live in times of war or abusive relationships, or living with addicts, or some sort of kind of chronic dysfunction or chronic stress, can create these states that lead to loads, that lead to overloads on an allostatic level. It's so interesting to me that obviously people get this, that our nervous systems, that are, basically our entire electrical system is highly connected and interconnected with all of these other systems, and that when there is.
Yes, and this too, like the thing that I was so fascinated about when I understand that our nervous system is really connected to every single these symptoms, every single symptom, digestion, respiratory, every like cardiovascular, every single system is connected by the nervous system. Nervous system is always in charge. Stage drive story. If our state of the nervous system is like, your state of the nervous system is there, fight or flight, you are anxious, you are thinking, this never gonna end, oh my god, I will have another wave, will I have another wave? That is the state that drives your story. But it's not that, like, that's why I say to you, don't get stuck with Googling, don't get stuck with the symptoms, just try to live your life, try to do whatever you can do, go outside, whatever you can do, go through your daily lives, because it is healing and rewiring. This information can be good. I like the information. I don't know if I will need this anymore, except like the showing you and the people who will end up this journey. It's nice to share information. Of course, it's very good to share information about caffeine, because that is something that many people doesn't know what it does. But about this all extra information that I'm trying to give you, it's just like I want to keep you motivated, and it's just something to look at maybe if you have time and like you are sitting a lot of in your home and in your computer. So maybe this will help you in a way to understand that you are not crazy and this is not any mental illness that you have, or this is not new you. Like some people say, Annie, this is that new me that I'm always gonna be this fucked up and I cannot do anything. No, it's not. It's a temporary state. But I don't show you all this video. I will link this, and then there is the other thing that I wanted to also show you a little bit about what comes to that fight or flight, our nervous system. Let's speak about a little bit that. There was a good picture that I did show. Yeah, there it is. So a little bit about nervous system, which runs the show, like we know. So, okay, I will take your chat before. What says the Yupisar? The book was written many years ago. There are certainly new scientific studies on caffeine in the meantime, but I doubt they will be published neutrally and honestly. Yes, that is the problem for sure, because you know how it is with the mainstream caffeine industry is $1 billion business. It's a huge business. Of course, they don't want people to know the truth, because if the mainstream would start to now write an honest articles how much people are like getting these diseases because of caffeine, it would be like, then people would start to realize this and they wouldn't buy caffeine anymore. but unfortunately that's not happening. It seems that it's happening, that caffeine industry is just going more and more crazy. But about the nervous system, and I think this is the good picture about like what's going on. Many of us, when we have the highly sensitized nervous system, and when we are kind of that state of fight or flight in this journey, having high anxiety. Some people have like the mild and moderate anxiety when they are using caffeine, like I had when I was in my caffeineism years, pretty much since childhood. I think I have always kind of mild and moderate anxiety, but I just I just thought that that's just me, and I had my OCD, which is, by the way, now I don't have any OCD. My OCD is completely gone. It's healed. It's disappeared. I don't have OCD that I had all my life, so it was because of caffeine. Hi, Animal 2000. Nice to see you. So anyway, so that's one motivation for some people. If you have OCD, at least try. Maybe caffeine can be the reason, or may not. I cannot say. There can be other reasons for OCD. But anyway, back to the nervous system. So fight or flight, freeze, fawn are something that many of us are like experiencing in this. And for me, I like to think about the nervous system is kind of like raw way. We have these two states that I think it's good for us to important. We have this stress, fight or flight, freeze, fawn state where we are like defending ourselves. Our system is trying to keep us safe. It's not time to connection. It's not time to rest and digest. It's not time to you to be creative and make plans and enjoy and just travel or whatever you want to do. And like I said, the anxiety can be the mild and the moderate. Then it can be also extreme or panic. I didn't never have panic and extreme while I was on caffeine, but when I did quit cold turkey, which I shouldn't have done, and end up having this severe biochemical, neurochemical shitstorm in my brain, PAWS, whatever you want to call it, healing is a good way to call it. I did started to having extreme anxiety symptoms and panic and fear. And it took a while. But so these are the typical symptoms that are like coming out when you are in this state. So when you're in fight state, you can be anger, a lot of controlling, to be the bully, because many people, they are on this state kind of, but not in the same way that we who are healing when we are in this post-acute withdrawal state, but many people, when they are addiction, they are kind of in that state, but maybe more like milder or moderate ways. And it can be that people becomes too narcissistic in that state, also explosive, because like it makes sense if we think about that if there would be a real danger, we would need all that energy to survive. And that's only thing that our body is then worried about. It cannot use those part of the brain that is thinking logically, or those high IQ part of the brain are not functioning, because that would take too much energy to body. So that's why we have this system that your limbic system and your kind of the lizard brain, they take control over the neurocortex when you are in the fight or flight. So this part of the brain where you think logically are not active. But it shouldn't be the long term in that way. So flight, it can mean that some people are just workaholic, overthinker. Like I was in that state a lot, like anxiety, panic. Okay, I didn't have panic before I quit, but if I speak about now in my caffeine years, I have OCD. I was a lot of workaholic. I was always just working, doing. I also had hard time to sit still, but I did sit still. Like I was like still living kind of my way of normal life, working, doing exercise. But then when I end up this PAWS journey, I was just unfunctional always. All kind of ways I felt I was so unfunctional, and I was just so hopeless and worried. And that's why I do these lives, because I know many people now, if you experiencing these PAWS symptoms, it can be that you are just so hopeless and worry and think about that, how people can live like that. But you just have to know that it's not gonna last forever. Somehow you will make it through. You own your way. What is your way to make it through today's? Okay, then the freeze is also one way that we have this survival mechanism when we can like freeze. It's an ultimate state. Like, let's say that you cannot run. You are in a situation somebody attacks you or may killing you. Okay, this is not very nice example. If this scares you, don't listen to this. But anyways, somebody is trying to stab you. You can, like, the freeze is ultimate. You don't feel pain in kind of that situation. It's like you can be numb, but these are maybe like this can be like a functional freeze where many people, even if they would have had some kind of trauma in their life, for example, in childhood, if you have been living in environment that your nervous system have been hyper arousal when you have been a kid, like for example, your parents have been fighting or alcoholics, or there have been a lot of stress and emotional or physical stress. It can be that when you grow up, you are living in these states which can go like fight or flight, freeze, fawn, like your nervous system can go between those stages. It's not necessarily just fight or flight. It can be that sometimes you are like just hard making decisions, stuck. Dissociation is part of the freeze. Like, dissociation is when you kind of dissociate from the body or from the world. It can also cause you memory loss. It's all about protection. For example, if something traumatic happens, we have this ability to dissociate from that situation. But interesting is that also when our body is going through PAWS, because it's a lot of stress to body to go through PAWS, of course, our body is like, what the heck is this? Like, I cannot deal these symptoms. Like, what is this? Like, drug doesn't come in and we have to rewire, and that's a stress. A body that is hell of a stress. Sorry about cursing, but it's a lot of stress to body to go through this healing. So our nervous system, before it rewires itself, and all those calming chemicals and everything will go back to there where they should be, and the receptors are getting back their sensitivity kind of, or whatever is the case, why the system doesn't work in balance. So just know that these are normal. If you feel numb, isolated, cannot leave the house, stuck. And of course, this can be, like I said, this kind of state and these symptoms can be other reasons too, like traumatic things that have been happening in your life. Why did you end up having these severe anxiety symptoms or something else? But now what I'm speaking about is this, like the post-acute withdrawal symptoms, when our nervous system is, for many of us, just like misfiring, giving the signal that there is dangers, even there is not. Simple when we kind of know, but living through, not so simple. So fawn is maybe not so much known. We always say fight or flight, freeze, but there is also the fourth corner, which is fawn. I think many people can live in this state when they live their lives. They don't maybe know that this is also one survival mechanism. For example, people pleaser, that maybe you did learn. You have high stress in your life, or like when you were little, you couldn't get any attention except you did make funny jokes, or you was always pleasing people, so they would notice you. This is so sad, actually. Like if the person doesn't have the loving parents or something like that, it can be that the kid have to use some kind of survival skills to get to love or connection, but because the connection is that what we all miss, and that what we are missing, many of us in this journey, that we don't feel just connected to our family or friends, but it's temporary. But that's, I know it's very hard when you go through it, that you don't necessarily, you can just lose friends and your family members doesn't understand, but what comes to PAWS, it's not permanent. Then also no boundaries can be one. And of course, if you have had some of these, what would I say? Like if you have this kind of learned survival skills that have been under to addiction, that you have been used, like if you have been codependent or always overwhelmed, then of course when you heal from the PAWS, and if you still have, if let's say that you have been learned like years and years certain ways of cope your life, those are just of course theirs that you may have to work on. But I think it's just so much better when we quit drugs, to even if you would have something like to work on, like the life lesson stuff or whatever that you need to learn while you are not addicted anymore, it's good that you get to know the real you, the sober you, to you under to addiction, kind of. I don't know if this makes sense what I'm speaking about, but for me, I just don't find life hard when I'm getting over this. Like even I'm not saying that there is all the time things going on and life will bring stress, and life goes on. We all have certain things that happens to our relationships and what comes to living life, but it's nothing to compare when I was going through all these like really hard symptoms. But this is about the nervous system, because I think it's just something so interesting, and because it's the nervous system is always running the show, and it would be just like kind of it's important what comes to understanding why you are feeling what you are feeling. But even that, you don't have to go into science. Just try to relax as much as you can in this journey. Watch something nice, movies, if you cannot do anything else. Sometimes I couldn't even watch movies. Like I said, I was just so bad that I couldn't stand any extra stimulation. I couldn't just even showering was hard because of that low energy and depression and all that. But just know that it's not permanent state, that you just need to survive your days. Nobody cannot live that forever, surviving the days. Life shouldn't be like that. We should be able to be connected and able to focus and have motivation. And I think the God have created to us to that way, that we shouldn't be have fight or flight or freeze fawn state all of our life. It's not meant to be. And in maybe there was the times when people have to be in that state where the wild animals could kill them, or there was constant like that you are about to die, but for us, like it's not, shouldn't be like that. Okay, what do you think about that? Maybe I'm starting to end this live if you don't have any questions, but do you have any experience about like having these symptoms that you feel that you are dangerous, or you are in danger all the time, or you feel fearful, or you have these what if thoughts? And one thing that I want to say to you is, if you have these what if thoughts in this journey, is normal. Like, what if, okay, let's take what if thoughts. What if I'm never gonna heal? What if I'm gonna get another wave? What if I don't make it? Whatever. Don't believe that. Don't believe that. It's just your anxiety does that. Anxiety never makes us feel happy. Depression is always that takes us to the past, or depression is kind of hard to even explain, and because you know who experienced this anhedonia, but like for me, I never didn't experience this kind of depression in my life. Even I said I had mild and moderation anxiety, but not kind of a depression. So when I did end up having these depression symptoms and anhedonia, I was just like, what is this? Like, how this can be so hard to even put clothes on and like get through the days, because the anhedonia make you have no feelings. And then I was scared about that, and then I started to panic about not having any feelings. And I remember when I was talking with my friend and saying like, this is like, I'm scared to go to sleep because I don't have any feelings, and when I did wake up I didn't have any feelings either. And I do remember that. If some of you, I know that maybe you are now like experiencing something, these symptoms that I have been speaking about, and I have shared all my symptoms in my channel, so you will find those. I even make some song to those. I put them in the one song that you find in my video section in my channel. But I don't think about symptoms, like I don't have to think about symptoms anymore. That goes kind of away when you start to like recover and feel more yourself. You just kind of start to focus other stuff. Is this reassuring, guys? I hope this is reassuring, because you did ask me to do these lives. I will read a little bit Bible, so if you don't want to hear that then, but for me it's just so important now when I did become believer of the Jesus in this summer. I'm just so happy to read Bible every day. I'm just even this live, I give all the thank for the God, to Jesus, because I'm here and I'm able to do this and I'm healthy and happy. It's all about like me praising the God, and I wanna give God all the thanks to this live event. So a little bit Bible, and then we're gonna end up this. And if you have any questions or anything, you can of course send me Discord messages. And this Sunday I don't have to support voice chat. I do keep the voice chat is in Discord every Sundays, but this Sunday I will be traveling, so it's not, I'm not there. But then, you know, I will always put announcement in the voice chat where I will be there and what time. So even if you have like random moments some Sundays that you would like to come there and have maybe voice call, just enjoy my Discord group. You will find that link in my channel's links, and you can join there in the Discord. So just know that there is that kind of like what is that option to people who have these symptoms, because I know that sometimes it can be just lonely go through the days. But now for the Bible. So I want to read in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 4. This is part where the Jesus end up in the wilderness, and he was there like the devil was trying to like tease him. So Matthew chapter 4. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it's written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord the God. I don't know if this is a little bit hard to pronounce because this Bible text is a little bit different than normal. So I don't know if I will say it right, but hopefully you understand. Again, the devil takes him up in the exceeding high mountain and sweat him all the kingdoms of the world and glory of them, and said unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then said Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it's written, Thou shalt worship the Lord the God, and him only that shalt thou serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Now when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee. And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in the Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Jabulon and Nephthalim, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Esaias the prophet, saying, The land of Jabulon and the land of Nephthalim, by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan, Galilee, and the Gentiles. The people which sat in the darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of the death light is sprung up. From that time Jesus began to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And Jesus, walking by the sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net in the sea, for they were fishers. And he said unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him. And going from thence he saw other two brethren, James and the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in a ship with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and called them. And they immediately left the ship and their father, and followed him. And one more. And Jesus went to all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. So that was a little bit Bible, but I hope you all just keep going, and you can comment this video how many months you are or how many days you are, and I wanna send you a lot of readings here from Finland. We are heading soon to the late autumn, so it's getting dark already soon in the nights. But anyway, God bless you all, and I'm just so thankful that I can be supporting you, and I will never give up this supporting thing. It's just for me something that, oh, what I did push. Am I still there? I hope I didn't cut this live. Okay, but anyway, I hope this did help you a little bit in your moments. That's what I always hope, that when you have a hard moment, maybe you can put some of my video and get some reassurance, and just know that that moment will pass. You can say yourself, this will pass. This too will pass, because it will. It will. And know that you are doing a great job. And Subsec Gigi 100